Imagine waking in the dark with a sentence already in your mouth. You don't know who said it first, but you know it's true. You feel it the way your skin feels thunder before the sound arrives. Like you walked under a power line and the air decided to speak. You write it down on whatever is near. Your palm, a receipt, the quiet face of your phone. Hours later, it becomes a solution. Days later, a door. Years later, a life you can't imagine living without. Now, imagine discovering that sentence didn't come from nowhere. Welcome back, Seeker. Tonight, we slip into the night library, an invisible archive some call the Akashic Records, where ideas choose their authors, where the future rehearses itself in dreams, and where every intention leaves a trace deep enough to find again. I won't try to force belief. I will only tell you what people have always whispered when their best work felt borrowed from a place with no street address. I will ask you to stand in a certain kind of quiet and listen for the sound a choice makes when it lands. The old syllable behind this door is older than any lodge or laboratory. Akasha, Sanskrit for sky, ether, space. In early Indian thought, Akasha isn't a void. It's the field that makes everything else possible. If there is a field, there can be memory, not a filing cabinet, but the way fabric remembers a crease. Press hard enough and the cloth never quite forgets you touched it. Maybe the world is like that. Maybe each of us is a pressure the cosmos keeps as a fold. Centuries pass, the word migrates, learns new clothes, and appears in Western salons wearing a surname the West understands. Records. Akashic Records. That's how you turn a mystery into a system. And once a mystery grows a system, someone will try to read it. But systems aren't the point tonight. Experience is. Because before this idea had clerks and catalogs, it had visitations. There are people who build laboratories, and there are people who become them. Salvador Dali discovered a door most of us walk past in daylight. He would sit upright, with a heavy key pinched between his fingers, a plate waiting beneath. As he drifted into that silver-gray borderland between waking and sleep, the key would fall, the plate would clang, and Dali would jolt back across the threshold, carrying images still wet from the dark. He called it a method. It behaved like a ritual. Thomas Edison did something similar with steel balls in both hands, napping in a chair so the clatter would wake him at the exact moment ideas are still half in heaven. They swore the best material lives in that thin seam, the hypnagogic margin, where the mind is unlocked just long enough to let the courier in. Some never needed metal to time the crossing. Nikola Tesla walked city streets at night and ran machines in his head, the way other men ran them in factories, rotating them, stress testing them, wearing them out, replacing parts, all in a theater of mind with rules as strict as steel. When he finally built what he had already seen, it was less invention than retrieval. He spoke with that clean, unnerving certainty of his, of a world made of frequency and vibration, as if reality were an orchestra and he was born able to hear the tuning note. Auguste Kekule, exhausted in a lecture, watched a serpent take its tail in its mouth and woke with the ring of benzene blazing in his mind, chemistry by icon, revelation disguised as a daydream. Elias Howe slept and saw a needle with its eye in the wrong place, then woke and moved the eye to the front of the point, and the spool of history twitched forward. Dmitri Mendeleev worked until the cards of the elements blurred, then drifted, and later said he saw a table arrange itself into an order that made new matter inevitable. Scholars will argue how much the dream mattered, but the dream keeps showing up at the scene of the crime. When the rational day pauses, the map draws itself. Music is the most honest accomplice. Giuseppe Tartini dreamt the devil visited him and played a piece he could barely comprehend. He woke reaching for his instrument and wrote the Devil's Trill Sonata like a man trying to take dictation from fire. Centuries later, Paul McCartney opened his eyes with a melody already in his mouth and asked if anyone had written it before. He called it Yesterday, because sometimes the thing you receive is so perfect, you assume it was always here. And in another register altogether, Srinivasa Ramanujan filled notebooks with mathematics he said were given to him by the goddess Namagiri in dreams. The formulas were not pretty fictions. They worked, and they still work, as if he had reached into a pocket sewn into the lining of the universe and pulled out handfuls of truth. One doctor tried to give these visitations a name without shrinking them. Richard Maurice Buck called it cosmic consciousness, not a belief system, a weather pattern. The air changes, the windows of the mind light up. Time loosens its grip just enough for the next sentence of your life to arrive whole. You don't argue with it anymore than you argue with a sunrise. You just write faster. Is this only the unconscious mind doing quiet, brilliant bookkeeping while we sleep? Maybe. Or maybe the unconscious is just our word for a room whose landlord we haven't met. Because there is another way to say all of this, one that sounds audacious until you've lived with it. Perhaps these men didn't merely imagine, perhaps they accessed, perhaps they put a hand through the thin wall between the visible and the remembered and found their fingers closing on a page already inscribed. If there is a field that holds the imprint of everything that has been and could be, then Dali's clanging key is not a quirk, it's a door. Edison's dropped spheres are a door. Tesla's midnight walks, Kekule's serpent, Howe's needle, Mendeleev's table, Tartini's bow, McCartney's tune, Ramanujan's goddess, they are all the same gesture. A human being catching a book that fell from a shelf just out of sight. And in a small room in Virginia, a man lay on a couch, folded his hands, and spoke about your life as if he were reading from a ledger. Edgar Cayce called it the Book of Life. Others called it the Akashic Records. He didn't thunder. He didn't sell thunder. He offered instructions you could carry past the threshold of his office into a kitchen full of errands. Change this, try that, forgive here, rest now. The tone was simple. The claim was not. He said that upon time and space is written the record of our thoughts and deeds, that intentions leave ink. You can argue that none of this proves a cosmic library. You can argue that what we call downloads are collages built overnight by minds that never clock out. But the pattern refuses to blink away. Some of the world's cleanest breakthroughs arrive like returns. Not deduced, delivered. Not assembled, remembered. When the veil is thin and the room is quiet and the self steps 6 inches to the left, something trusted steps forward and places a sentence in your hands. Call it subconscious genius if that keeps you steady. Call it the Akashic Records if that keeps you honest about how little of our best work feels like ownership and how much of it feels like stewardship. The ethics arrive right on time. If there is a room like this, the only door with your name on it opens from the inside. You ask to see your own file, not someone else's. You ask what you can act on this week, not what will let you procrastinate with poetry. You promise not to use what you learn to make yourself less human. The night library rewards vows. It is suspicious of drama. It prefers ordinary courage. The phone you decide not to touch, the apology you decide to make, the promise you decide to keep, even when it's inconvenient. It treats those choices like keys. Some nights the library answers like an echo. Other nights, it feels like dictation. Most nights, it is subtler. The right name repeats too many times to ignore. The wrong door jams twice like a stage whisper. An old fear loosens without fanfare. You don't have to call that the Akashic Records. You can call it paying attention. But attention is a spell anyone can cast without lying to themselves. The cost is time. The gain is orientation. There's a moment in all true seeking when you realize you didn't come for miracles. You came for governance, for a way to make clean decisions under a sky that doesn't answer every question on command. If the records are anything, they are a mirror with a memory. They reflect you, and they remember the hand that touched them last. They answer, and they keep a simple note about the quality of the question. Ask a better question, and the room becomes brighter. Ask a manipulative one, and the lights dim in polite refusal. You can fool friends and enemies and, if you work at it, yourself. The night library is allergic to that perfume. I've seen how the map appears when you wait long enough. You think there's a tribunal at the end, robes, gavels, trumpets, but there is only a mirror. In the glass, a city unrolls. On one side, streets you know by heart. On the other, streets you won't see unless you turn at the light you always run. The short roads cost more. The shaded ones take longer. Your ancestors have walked both sides of the river, and all of them want you to love someone you are avoiding. A reader may join you. If they're good, they stand beside you and do not touch the glass. They do not point. They ask which road scares you in a way that feels like freedom and which road soothes you in a way that feels like a cage. Then they are quiet, because the dignity of a sovereign does not flourish in noise. They don't sentence you. They hold the lantern while you choose. This is where the danger hides. A library this intimate can be weaponized. If someone convinces you only they can read your file, they've stolen your life with a holy sentence. If a school sells access to yourself like a subscription, it is mistaken a sacrament for a paywall. Guard your record. Guard your agency. Keep the key. The odd truth is that you already live under a loud counterfeit of this mystery. The cloud remembers where you slept last Tuesday, and which face you zoomed into in a photograph of strangers. It learns your hunger like an old friend, and sells your next impulse to the highest bidder in an auction you will never be invited to watch. If you respect the privacy of your soul, treat your data with the same reverence. Close doors you didn't know were open. Disable the permissions you never meant to grant. The first ritual of the Akasha is not incense, it is consent. When the world grows quiet enough, you start to feel how energy behaves inside you. Not the chalkboard kind, the human kind. Anger has heat. Mercy has voltage. A promise has its own gravity. Physics says energy is neither created nor destroyed. It changes form. Ethics says the same about the moral weather we make. Actions convert into memory, memory into patterns, patterns into tendencies that act like fate. The old word for that ledger is karma. Not a vending machine, not cosmic punishment, but momentum. The records, if they exist, are not a court so much as a book of vectors, where your life tends to go unless interrupted by attention and choice. If you want to see karma without believing in anything mystical, look at your last week. Your tone of voice, the tab you shouldn't have opened, the small kindness you almost did and then didn't, the apology you owe. The body has a filing system. The heart has a clerk who never clocks out. You were told this kind of script has to crescendo with something exotic. Here's the real crescendo. The judge you fear is not at the end of the hallway. There's a mirror where you thought a tribunal would be. When you wait and keep waiting, a map appears in the glass. It doesn't tell you what to do. It tells you what each option belongs to. Fear disguised as prudence. Loyalty disguised as habit. Freedom disguised as risk. And then, this is the sacred, inconvenient part. It returns the decision to you. The future is a shelf. Your choice is the hand. If this room feels like one you want to return to, where mystery is handled like a fragile instrument and not a toy, let the circle widen. Share this with one person, standing at an intersection with the engine running and the radio too loud. The night library grows by whispers, not billboards. And that is the only growth I trust. You came here asking where our best ideas really come from. Maybe from the same place our best selves do. I've met inventors who speak of seeing machines in the air, as if the atmosphere had decided to reveal its blueprints. I've sat with musicians who call their melodies dictation and point toward a ceiling that never answers. I've read about mathematicians who attribute pages of formulas to a goddess who visited them in dreams, about healers who prayed and then said the right thing without knowing why. You can call this subconscious synthesis, and I won't argue, but sometimes the solution lands with a texture that doesn't feel assembled, it feels delivered. It's rowing all day and then suddenly catching wind. The boat doesn't change, the water doesn't change. You do. And in that shift, small, interior, decisive, you travel farther in a minute than you did all morning. When it happens, don't bow to the wind. Don't pretend you made it. Keep your hand on the tiller and be grateful the library lent you a page. So here's the quiet instruction I came here to give. Ask cleaner questions. Make braver promises. Practice permission. Choose the branch that feels like freedom with responsibility, not the shortcut that feels like permission to abandon the person you promised to become. If the Akashic Records are only a myth, let it be the kind that improves your behavior. If they are more than myth, then nothing you did was wasted and nothing you loved was lost. The field keeps the crease, and when you return, the book will open to the page your hands have learned. Until your next step, walk the path with wisdom.